The cabin in the woods. The small wooden cabin sat deep in the northern Vermont woods, where tall pine trees whispered secrets whenever the wind passed through. It was a one-story home, with a dark timber roof and old but spotless windows, always left slightly open to welcome the morning breeze and birdsong. Mildred had lived there alone for almost 10 years, ever since her husband Harry passed away quietly after a minor stroke. Mildred never disliked the city, but after Harry's passing, the sounds of traffic, the flashing lights, the hurried people, all of it made her feel like a ghost in her own life. The cabin, tucked between the trees, felt more like home. No noise, no crowds, just the rustling leaves, the soft sunlight, and the polite knock of a plump squirrel who came like clockwork each morning for a snack. She woke up each day at 5:30 a.m., though she no longer needed to. Mildred brewed a cup of chamomile tea, wrapped herself in the wool shawl she had knitted last winter, and sat on the front porch. On foggy days, she sipped in silence. On sunny ones, she smiled at the golden rays trickling through the leaves. Time passed gently there, day by day, season by season. On colder mornings, she lit the fireplace. The cabin would fill with the comforting scent of pine wood and toasted bread. Those were the days she missed Harry more than usual. He used to sit across from her, reading the newspaper with his round glasses slipping down his nose, mumbling things no one understood, and chuckling as if they were in on the same quiet joke. Mildred didn't cry much anymore. The sadness never truly left, but it softened, like the fading echo of a lullaby. Sometimes she could still feel Harry nearby, in the gentle creak of the old rocking chair when the wind picked up, in the soft jazz that played from the radio she forgot to turn off, or in the sudden, fleeting smell of coffee even before the kettle had boiled. One autumn night, when the leaves had blanketed the porch in gold, Mildred couldn't sleep. The wind howled softly outside, but the night wasn't cold. Something in the air felt different, as if the cabin itself was breathing, not anxiously, but slowly and deeply. She slipped on her sweater and stepped out onto the porch with a fresh cup of chamomile. The moon was full that night, fuller and brighter than any she'd seen in months. Its light spilled across the ground, turning the fallen leaves into a golden carpet. She eased into the rocking chair. A cool breeze stirred her silver hair. Then she heard it, music. A piano, faint and distant, almost imagined, but it was there. She wasn't afraid. In fact, she felt at peace. The tune reminded her of her wedding day, a soft June afternoon in 1968, by a small church near the river. Harry had taken her hand and whispered, "Let's grow old together, okay?" The music didn't seem to come from any direction. Maybe it came from her memory. Maybe the woods were playing it just for her. She closed her eyes and listened. After a while, she stood up and followed the melody into the trees, walking slowly, as though someone were calling her name without speaking. She stopped beneath the old oak tree, the biggest in the forest. She and Harry used to picnic there every summer after they retired. They'd spread out a checkered blanket, bring cookies, and lie back watching squirrels dart through the branches. Tonight, under the moonlight, she noticed something strange, a lantern hanging from a branch. There were no hooks, no wires, but it glowed warmly, like a campfire in the dark. She walked closer and sat at the tree's base, leaning against the rough bark. The air was cool, clean, and the music continued, soft as breath. And Mildred began to remember. She remembered the day she met Harry, in a dusty bookstore in Philadelphia. He had brushed her hand as they both reached for Wuthering Heights. She blushed, he smiled, and the first thing he said was, "If you get it before I do, we go for coffee. Deal?" She remembered their first argument, about getting a cat or a dog, and how they ended up with both. She remembered the sleepless nights, knitting scarves for each other, even though neither of them would ever wear them in public. She remembered the hospital corridors, the quiet worry, and how he squeezed her hand when he couldn't speak anymore. Memory is a strange gift. It doesn't disappear, not really. It hides inside the heart, waiting patiently for a moment, or a song, to stir it awake. The wind began to slow. Mildred opened her eyes. The lantern was gone. The moon still glowed above. She stood up and made her way back toward the cabin. Along the path, a young deer stood beside the bushes. It didn't run. It simply looked at her, calm and still, as if recognizing her as part of the woods now. Back inside, she brewed another cup of tea and slipped into bed. The gray wool blanket wrapped around her like familiar arms. She didn't dream, but that night, she slept deeply, more deeply than she had in years. The next morning, it rained softly. Gentle early winter raindrops tapped against the roof, making the kind of rhythm that puts you back to sleep. Mildred woke later than usual, but she didn't mind. She lay in bed a little longer, smiling to herself. She knew somehow that Harry was still there, somewhere in the woods, in the little cabin, in the tea, and in the music that still sometimes played when the world grew quiet enough to listen. She wasn't afraid of being alone anymore.